Hello everyone. In this video we are going to talk about the periodic trend of ionization potential. Now ionization potential basically sometimes we will also be referring to it as ionization energy. Okay. In some textbooks we will also keep using the word ionization enthalpy. So we'll see, what is the relation between these terms, we will be able to see. So when we talk about the ionization potential trend, that is also going to be similar for the case of ionization energy and ionization enthalpy. So first we'll start with the definition of what is an ionization energy. So what is the definition of ionization energy? So this definition is important to understand how we are actually measuring this. So it represents the amount of energy required to remove the most loosely bound electron of the outermost shell, which is the outermost electron, which means what? Say for example we have just 4s and 4p. In the fourth orbit there are two levels, 4s and 4p. Which of them will be loosely bound? The p electrons will be loosely bound. So the loosely bound outermost shell electron, when we are trying to remove, it will be requiring energy. Why it will require energy? If you just try to use the Bohr's model concept, right? Now Bohr's model concept will not be completely applicable for the multi-electron atoms, but still when the electron is bound to the nucleus, there will be some attractive forces, and we see that the total energy of the electron inside the atom, remember the formula that we have from the Bohr's model, what is it? Minus 13.6 electron volt into z square by n square. That is of course for hydrogen and hydrogen like species. Okay, but what it still tells us is that electron will be having negative energy. We want to remove it, means the total energy becomes what? Zero for the electron, which means you have to supply that much amount of positive value. So we have to supply that much amount of positive energy so that the total energy of electron becomes what? Zero. So what is the definition of ionization energy? It is the amount of energy required to remove the most loosely bound electron of the outermost shell from 1 mole of an isolated gaseous atom of the element. So why are we saying 1 mole? Because we're talking about the molar requirement. Okay, so for 1 mole of the gaseous atoms, right, of the element which is in the ground state, from there we remove the most loosely bound electron that will be in the outermost shell. In that also, if you have 4s there are electrons and 4p there are electrons, which one we'll remove first? We'll remove the 4p electron because that will be the loosely bound. Okay, and when we remove it, what we are going to form? Of course we will form the cation. So that energy required is what we will call as ionization energy, which means you have to remove the electron from the gaseous isolated gaseous atoms of the element, like you can see here. So we have an element A, atom is there, isolated atom is there, gaseous state. We form the corresponding cation. The energy required is basically what you call as ionization energy. Now I said the word ionization enthalpy. See, this you will be learning in thermodynamics also, thermodynamics chapter. Enthalpy basically means, enthalpy change means the energy change involved in any particular process is what we will be calling as enthalpy change. Now this is sufficient for us here. When we go to thermodynamics chapter, we will learn more about what is enthalpy change, etc. But here what is the thing that we need to know about enthalpy change means? It is nothing but the energy change. Here as you see, the energy change will be what? It will be positive. Why it will be positive? Because we have to supply energy, right? So the amount of energy that we need to supply. So for the process to happen, this much amount of energy has to be given. Means what? Let's say for example we are giving some 500 joule energy. If you are giving 500 joule energy, means what? The overall process, right? Energy change will be what? It will be positive. Why it will be positive? Energy change means the energy of the product or the final substance minus energy of the reactant. That is how we will calculate the energy change, right? So here if you look at the relation, right, what is the relation? Energy of the product is equal to energy of that reactant or original substance plus 500, because we are adding 500 here. Now from here calculate it. What is the energy of product minus energy of the reactant? It is 500. It comes plus. So which means what? This is like plus 500. So the enthalpy change, the way we see it, right, is going to be what? Positive. It indicates what? This much amount of energy is absorbed or taken. Okay. So generally, such phenomena we will call them as endothermic phenomena. So the ionization process as such, right, the process of ionization is what? It is endothermic. It absorbs energy. Okay. So this is what the concept of ionization energy and ionization enthalpy. Okay. Now why are we using the word ionization potential? See, the thing is when electrons are getting removed, right, let's say for example we want to remove an electron. So how we will generally remove the electron is by applying a potential. Let us say we are applying a potential of 200 volt. Then the equivalent energy spent, the equivalent energy, right, that we are spending in removing the electron is given by what? Charge times potential that we are applying. What is it? 200 volt, which is equal to 200 electron volt. So this is in fact a unit of energy. So remember, we even talk about it in the structure of the atom. What is the relation? 1 electron volt will be equal to what? 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. How this comes? Electron charge is what? 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs into volt. What is coulomb into volt? Joule. So that is the reason why 1 electron volt will be equal to what? 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. That is the conversion. It is a small unit of energy. So when we look at the relation, right, if you are applying a 200 volt potential to remove the electron, means what is the corresponding energy that we have to spend? We have to spend an energy of 200 electron volt, like that. Okay. So that's the reason why we always associate the removal of electron also with what? The applied potential. Like say for example when we are giving the ionization energy values, right, if we are giving it in electron volt, okay, like the way we said, the ionization energy is 200 electron volt, means this is representing what? It representing what is the potential required to remove the electrons. It gives us what? Okay, so the potential required to remove the electron is what? 200 volt, like that. And this value is going to represent the ionization potential. So the 200 volt is going to represent what? Ionization potential. So the only thing is, if you are giving the ionization energy value in electron volt, right, you just look at the corresponding voltage value. That is what we will be calling as ionization potential. So when we talk about the ionization potential trend, the same thing is true for the ionization energy also. If you take ionization energy to be in electron volt unit, both will have the same numerical value. One will be in electron volt unit, other will be in volt unit. That is the only difference. What is the relation between them? This much potential have to apply to remove the electron. That is what is the ionization potential concept. And the corresponding energy involved will be given by which formula? Charge into potential, right? That will be what we are calling as ionization energy. And why the word ionization enthalpy? Because it is a process, right, where atom is losing electron to form a cation. The enthalpy change or energy exchange involved is given by what? Energy of the product minus energy of the reactant, like that. So enthalpy change for the process is what? Positive. It will be endothermic process, means energy is required. This is about the definition of what we call as ionization potential and ionization energy. Now when we are removing the electrons successively, what we are going to see is that every time we remove electron, right, we will be supplying energy, and we will be calling them as first, second, third ionization energy. Like say if you are removing fourth electron, means it will be first we will represent it as IE1, second we will represent it as IE2, third we will represent it as IE3, fourth means we will represent it as what? IE4, like that. So just to tell you, right, so if you have magnesium, so magnesium we have a nucleus. What is the number of electrons in first orbit? 2. What is the number of electrons in the second orbit? It will be 8. Okay. What is the number of electrons in third orbit? Magnesium will have 2 electrons in third orbit. Okay. So IE1 means what? When magnesium is taking IE1, it will become what? Of course, gaseous atoms. Okay. So magnesium becomes magnesium plus. That is the IE1. IE2 represents what? From magnesium plus if we are removing an electron, and that forms what? That forms magnesium 2 plus. That energy requirement is IE2. When will IE3 come? When we are removing. So from Mg2 plus, we are removing one more electron. That will be forming what? Mg3 plus. How many electrons we can remove? We can remove as many electrons that the atom is having. We can keep on removing, right? So this is about the successive, what do we call them as? So this is what we'll call as successive ionization energy values. So we'll call them as what? Successive ionization energy values. So whenever we see this word successive ionization energy, it represents what? The energy required for the each successive electron removal. That is what is the successive ionization energy. Okay, and what is the representation? So you see this word IE1, IE2, IE3, IE4. They represent what? The energy required for the removal of first electron, energy required for the removal of second electron, energy required for the removal of third electron, and so on. Now we look at what are the factors that will affect the ionization energy or ionization potential. So we keep interchangeably we'll keep using. Why? Because we need to understand that both of them are basically representing the same thing. One is measured in terms of volt, other is measured in terms of electron volt. One represents the voltage, other represents the energy required. That is it. Okay, so let us look at it. The first factor is that ionization energy value or ionization potential. It will decrease when the shell number or the radius is increasing. Why? Think about it. If say for example you have lithium. So lithium, where is this electron that will be removed first? It is in the second orbit. Okay, it is in the second orbit, correct? What about the sodium? Sodium, the electron to be removed is in the third orbit. Now as the electron is moving farther and farther from the nucleus, it becomes easy to remove the electron, right? So in terms of energy consideration, what we'll see, this requires less amount of energy for the removal. So what is the relation we can see? Ionization potential or ionization energy. So again I'm saying we must be comfortable in using both these things interchangeably because they are representing the same quantity. Numerical value will be same. One will be in terms of volt, other will be in terms of electron volt. Okay, that is it. Now ionization potential, what is the relation to atomic radius? As the atomic radius or the shell number is increasing, ionization energy or ionization potential will decrease. So what we see is, it is not like you have inverse relation or something. What we are trying to communicate here is, it will be having not like, it's not like a mathematical function like, y is equal to some k into 1 by x type, not like that. Okay, but broadly the relation will be what? The reciprocal type of relation, which means what? As the atomic radius is increasing, so from lithium to sodium, you can see here for the first group elements, right? Lithium, all these values are in what? Electron volt. So lithium, what is the value? The value is 520. If you're talking about ionization energy, means electron volt. If you talk about ionization potential, means we'll give in terms of volt. Okay, lithium, what is it? 520. Sodium 496, because sodium case the valence orbit is third orbit. Potassium 419, rubidium 403, cesium 374. It keeps on decreasing. Okay, so as the radius is increasing, this will be valid when we are going down the group. Radius is increasing, right? So the outermost electron goes farther and farther from the nucleus, means it becomes easy for the removal. The second factor is effective nuclear charge. What is effective nuclear charge representing? The Z effective value, we have talked about it even in our atomic radius trend. Z effective represents what? It represents what is the effective nuclear power on the outer, generally whichever electron we are focusing, we'll measure Z effective for that. Okay, generally what we are interested in knowing what is the effective nuclear charge acting on the outermost electrons. That is what we are looking at. Okay, so there are these theories that will explain how do we find out this Z effective. So one of the things that we have covered already in a separate video is the Slater's rules. So if you move across a period, right, no change in shell number, isn't it? See, first factor that we discussed is what? The first factor is shell number. Shell number is increasing means what? The ionization energy will decrease. But when you move across a period, what you will see? No change in the shell number. Shell number will not change. But what we will see is that the nuclear power will be increasing. Like in the case of lithium, what is it? 3 protons. Beryllium, what is the nuclear power? 4 protons. Boron, 5 protons. Carbon, 6. Nitrogen, 7. Oxygen, 8. Fluorine, 9. Neon, 10 protons. This is the nuclear power. But what we need to keep in mind is nuclear power directly will not be coming into the picture. It is what? The Z effective, which means as per the Slater's rules, you will know that Z effective will be equal to what? The theoretical nuclear power minus what we call as sigma. Sigma is what? What is the sigma? The shielding factor or the screening factor. So we discussed about this. The sigma represents what? How the inner orbit electrons as well as the other electrons in that same orbit are shielding the nuclear influence. There are some rules. Different theories will have different set of rules to calculate it. Okay, but in the Slater's rule application, what we have seen in that particular video, just I am recalling what we have observed there. If you move across a period, right, what we see is that the sigma value, the value of sigma will change, of course. Okay, and Z also will change. But what we have observed as an outcome is the Z effective will be increasing as we move from left to right. It is a different story that Z value is also increasing. Z value will be increasing, but what we will see is the Z effective value will be increasing across a period. Since the effective nuclear charge increases, right, no more shells are added, no change in the shell number, which means what? The outermost electrons will be coming under more influence of nucleus. Means it becomes difficult for their removal. So that is the reason why what we are able to observe. It requires more potential for the potential difference. We have to create more potential difference. We have to create for the removal of electrons. Means the ionization potential value will be increasing. We can also say the ionization energy value will be increasing. Okay. So as the effective nuclear charge increases, the ionization potential value also will be increasing. Why? Because effective nuclear charge increasing means the electrons will come under more influence of nucleus. So it becomes difficult for the removal. We have to spend more amount of energy for the removal, or we have to apply more amount of potential difference for the removal of electrons. Okay. Next we will talk about the shielding. Okay. So if the shielding constant sigma, so the Slater's rules, right, we will talk about this shielding constant. Okay, so what does it represent? The shielding constant sigma basically represents what? It represents how the inner orbit electrons and the electrons in the outermost shell, also the remaining electrons, okay, outermost shell, shield any valence electrons, shield any valence electron from the influence of nucleus, from the influence of nucleus. Okay, so this is what we will be calling as the shielding constant. Okay, there are rules that we will talk about in the Slater's theory, but here look at it. No, when shielding constant is increasing, what does it mean? If you just go by the formula, right, what is the Z effective value? Z effective will be equal to what? Z minus sigma. So if sigma is increasing means what? If the shielding constant is increasing means what? The Z effective value will be decreasing. Simple. When Z effective decreases means what? When the Z effective decreases, what does it represent? It basically represents that the outermost electron, nucleus is there, outermost electron is not under strong influence. So Z effective decreasing means what? It is not under strong influence, means it becomes easy for the removal. So which means what? We have to just supply a little bit lesser amount of energy. So ionization energy decreases when the sigma is increasing. Sigma increasing means what? You have to remember this formula. Z effective is equal to what? Z minus sigma. Sigma increasing means Z effective will decrease. That is it. So the shielding or screening effect, right? Increasing, when it will increase, if the number of electrons in the inner shells between the nucleus and the outermost electrons is increasing. So look at it now. So if we have the outermost, so inner orbit we have more number of electrons means what? The shielding constant value will be increasing. Okay, and as a result of this, what happens? There will be a decrease of the force of attraction between the nucleus and the outermost electron. Okay, and the force of attraction is decreasing means we require just less amount of energy for the removal or separation of the electron. So what it represents? It represents the decrease in the IP value. So when the screening factor sigma is increasing, right, it means what? The outermost electrons will be under lesser influence. They will be under lesser Z effective. Okay, which means it is easy for the removal of those electrons. We'll have to just spend small amount of energy or small amount of potential to be applied for the removal. Okay. The next factor is, this is a factor that will explain some of the anomalies. So we'll have to always focus on what are the factors that will explain the anomalies. Okay. The ionization energy will be more for half filled and fully filled electronic configurations. So this is generally true if you talk about the P level, D level and F level. And in case of S level, right, it is only when it is fully filled. This half filled concept will not come. Okay, so half filled and fully filled electronic configurations are more stable, isn't it? That will be true in which case? The P, D and F. In the S case, it is only the fully filled that will be of importance. Let's look at this point. The ionization energy will be more for a half filled and fully filled electronic configuration. See, what about this half filled and fully filled configuration? So if you go by the Hund's rule, right? What is the Hund's rule state? In atomic structure chapter we talked about it. What is it? Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. So when you're filling electrons into the degenerate orbitals, how do we fill them? Let's say we are filling electrons into the p orbitals in the 2p level, 2px, 2py, 2pz. We'll fill one electron each with parallel spin and then we'll start pairing them. So what we'll see is that when we first fill each of them with one electron and then start pairing them, right, it is associated with what? It is associated with giving the stability for both the half filled as well as completely filled degenerate orbital configurations. Means what? If you want to disturb it, then we will have to be spending more amount of energy. So this half filled and fully filled, they will be comparatively stable. And if you want to destabilize them, right, we have to spend more amount of energy. Like, you know, if you have even why chromium itself is having abnormal electronic configuration, because a 3d5 4s1 structure gives more stability than 3d4 4s2, isn't it? Because 3d5 is what? Half filled D. So this we will see in the abnormal electronic configurations in the structure of atom chapter, right? So half filled P or a fully filled P, half filled D or a fully filled D, half filled F or a fully filled F, or fully filled S. These will be associated with what? More amount of energy being required to separate the electron from the atom. So when it is going to be observed, half filled P, half filled D, half filled F. Fully filled means S also we will add S, P, D, F. Okay. Now just to look at some example, if we talk about nitrogen, what is the nitrogen number of electrons? Atomic number of nitrogen is 7, right? So what is the arrangement? 1s2, 2s2, 2p will have 3 electrons, 2p3. How we can write it? As per the degenerate levels, 2px1, 2py1, 2pz1. This is what? All the degenerate orbitals are half filled. All the degenerate orbitals are what? Half filled, right? So means what? This is going to be having extra stability. This arrangement is going to be having what? Extra stability. Means the removal of electron from here is going to be comparatively difficult. The removal of electron is going to be what? Comparatively difficult. We'll talk about what will be the exact situation where we'll see anomaly because of this. So removal of electron from nitrogen is going to be comparatively difficult. Why? Because nitrogen is having a 2p3 structure, half filled, it is having what? Half filled p subshell structure. Okay. Now the other aspect is, because we keep talking about these inert gases, so every property, right, we talked about it in the radius also. Now we will talk about it in the ionization potential also. Generally when you see the ionization potential of inert gases, right, it will be very high. The reason is they have what we see is one of the most stable electronic configuration. What is it? The 8 electron structure in the valence shell, which will represent this as what? ns2np6 structure. We also call it as octet structure. We'll discuss more about this in the chemical bonding chapter. Okay, but this is a stable arrangement, right? You want to remove electron from this means you will be required to spend lot of energy. So that is the reason why ionization potential values of the inert gases are going to be very high. Now the other factor is from which orbitals we are removing the electrons. See, if the principal quantum number is same, talk about for example 4s, 4p, 4d, 4f. I mean, just to give you a very simple instance. Okay, so we want to remove electron. So imagine we have electrons in 4s, electrons in 4p, electrons in 4d, electrons in 4f. Okay, so where we will remove the electrons easily, because the s, I mean, the s orbitals, right, for a given principal quantum number, the s orbitals will be penetrating more towards the nucleus than p, than d, than f. Which is going to be penetrating more? So the penetration order is what? S will penetrate more than p, than d, than f towards the nucleus. When the penetration is more means they are going to be coming under more influence of nucleus, which means what? You have to spend that much more amount of energy to remove them. So for a principal quantum number which is same, what is the energy required for the removal of electrons from different orbitals? If you want to remove electrons from s orbitals means we have to spend more amount of energy than p, than d, than f. Because of what? Because of the penetration of these orbitals towards the nucleus. Same thing, right? We can also explain it by using the energy. So remember, when we talk about the energy of electrons, we will use this n plus L rule, isn't it? If n is same, as the L value is increasing, right, what happens? The energy also will be correspondingly increasing. So when we talk about the removal of s electron, right, it becomes more difficult. Okay, because the s is sitting in the least energy, okay, than p, than d, than f. So when you want, this is the zero line, imagine somewhere at the top. We want to make the energy of the s electrons to zero means we have to spend that much amount of energy. P, we want to make it zero means we have to spend this much. D means we have to spend. F means, so it is easy to remove electrons from the f orbitals. Okay, we are talking about the principal quantum number being same. Okay, so this is about the factors that will affect the ionization energy. So here just to look at the example, I'll erase some part of it so that we can see. So here we have an example that will explain. The ionization potential of beryllium and magnesium are more than the ionization potentials of boron and aluminum. See, look at where this comes. Beryllium is here, boron is here. They belong to same period, okay, which is the second period. Where is magnesium and aluminum? They belong to third period. See, when you move from left to right in a period, already we talked about it, right? What should be happening? The ionization energy requirement should be increasing because of the Z effective is increasing, right? So ionization potential or ionization energy value must be increasing. That is what we talked about it. But here what we see is the ionization potential values of beryllium and magnesium are more than the boron and aluminum. The reason is here beryllium and magnesium, look at it now. Beryllium, what is this arrangement? Outermost is what? 2s2. Magnesium, what is outermost? 3s2. What about the boron? outermostly is 2px1. Aluminum is what? 3px1. So what we see is, in case of beryllium, we are trying to remove electron from 2s. In case of boron, we are trying to remove electron from 2p. In case of magnesium, we are trying to remove electron from 3s. In case of aluminum, we are trying to remove electron from where? 3p. So remember, the 2s and 3s, they will be penetrating more towards the nucleus than 2p and 3p, which means what? It will be easy for the removal of electron from the 2p than removing it from 2s. Similarly, it will be easy to remove the electron from 3p than removing from 3s. Okay. There is also one more factor here why beryllium is more than boron and magnesium is more than aluminum. Beryllium, right, has got a stable fully filled s structure. So is the case with magnesium, 3s2 structure. Whereas boron has got that lone electron in the 2p level. Aluminum has got lone electron in the 3p level. So in case of beryllium magnesium, what is happening? The valence s subshell is fully filled. In case of beryllium, 2s is fully filled. In case of magnesium, 3s is fully filled. So disturbing that fully filled s is going to be requiring significant amount of energy, isn't it? Whereas in case of boron, we have a lone electron in 2p sitting. In case of aluminum, we have a lone electron in 3p that is sitting there. So it will be easy for the removal of the lone p electron than disturbing the fully filled s subshell structure. So we are using which principle here? That half filled and fully filled point. Okay. So that is also another reason that we can provide for why the beryllium ionization potential value is more than boron and magnesium is more than aluminum. Okay. Now when we talk about ionization energy, right, we have also used this word ionization enthalpy. So remember what we said? We said that ionization enthalpy is what? It is always positive, indicating it is an endothermic change. It represents what? Endothermic change means it is absorbing energy. But for some ions, especially when you have, say for example, Be minus. Be minus means what? It is 1s2, 2s2, 2p1. When you remove, this is Be minus. When you remove electron and get 1s2, 2s2, this is what? Stable. 1s2, 2s2 structure is what? Stable. S subshell is fully filled. So this kind of ionization energy for the ions, some of the ions like this, where the final arrangement is more stable. The final arrangement is what? More stable. Okay. We will have the ionization enthalpy to be also negative, which means the energy will be released. It is not like, always see, for atoms, if you want to remove the electron means we have to supply energy. But for some ions, right, when you are removing electrons, especially examples like this, right, energy may be released also. Okay, which means for those processes, enthalpy change will be taken as what? It will be taken as negative. Okay. And when we look at the successive ionization energy values, successive ionization energy means what? This is, look at it. So A becomes A plus means what? IE1. A plus becomes A2 plus means what? IE2. A2 plus becomes A3 plus means what? IE3, and so on. So when you're removing the next electron, what we need to keep in mind is we are not removing electron from an atom. We are removing electron from a cation. So removing electron from cation, right, means, look at it, already cation. We are trying to remove electron from that. See, cation will be attracting it, right? Cation means positive charged. If you are trying to remove electron from that, means that is going to be requiring even more amount of energy than removing of electron from neutral atom. So every time we remove one more electron, right, the cation charge is going to increase. It's going to become that much more positive, isn't it? So removal of every successive electron, right, is going to be requiring more and more amount of energy. So always what we'll see, IE1 value will be less than IE2, less than IE3, less than IE4, and so on. Remember what we said? How many electrons we can remove from an atom? We can remove as many number of electrons that are there in the atom. Total number of electrons also we can remove completely one by one. Okay. So for any element, if we are talking about successive ionization energies, successive ionization energies will always be increasing. IE1 will be the least. It will be less than IE2. IE2 will be less than IE3, like that. Now this successive ionization energy value, right, this is an important point. This can sometimes be asked even in some of the previous years also. We got questions like this. The successive ionization energy values, when they are given to us, if we observe a sudden jump in the successive ionization energy values, this can help us in predicting what is the number of valence shell electrons of the corresponding atom. Why, I will tell you. Okay, look at this. Look at the case of sodium. Sodium, what is the IE1 value? 5.139. What about IE2? 47. You see sudden jump. Okay. Now let us look at the germanium. What is germanium? 11.26, 26.38. You can see every step it is increasing. 47.44, 77.41, 392.07. It is suddenly increasing. What about aluminum? 5.98, 18.22, 28.44, suddenly 119.4. So what does this represent? See, when you see a sudden jump in case of sodium, right, from 5.139, it is suddenly becoming what? 47.28. Means after removing one electron, we must have reached a very stable state. And what is that very stable state that we will generally associate with? It is the noble gas arrangement. That is our NS2 NP6 kind of a structure, right? Means the electrons removed up till now, they must be our valence electrons, isn't it? So until now, whatever the electrons we are removing, those will be the valence electrons. So here no sodium case, after removing one electron, you see a sudden jump coming. Means after removing one electron, you must have obtained that stable. That is why it is requiring a significant jump. Which means what? Before that jump is coming, how many electrons removed? Just one. Germanium, before the jump is coming, how many electrons we removed? We removed 4 electrons. That is why the number of valence electrons from germanium is what? 4. Sodium, it is 1. You see the case of aluminum, 1 electron we removed, second electron we removed, third electron we removed. For the removal of third electron, right, how much energy we are spending? 28.44 electron volt. But after the removal of third electron, when we go to the fourth, what is the jump we see here? 119 suddenly, 119.4. Means what? It is requiring large amount of energy to remove that fourth electron. Means after the removal of 3 electrons, we should have come to a stable structure. In fact, if you actually look at it, right, what is the aluminum arrangement? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. Okay, what is it? Then 3s2, 3p1. This is the aluminum structure. Correct. So if you remove the 3 electrons, you are getting to what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. This is a stable structure, 2s2, 2p6 structure in the valence orbit. So for aluminum, right, what will be the number of valence electrons? It is 3. So what is the conclusion here? When we are given successive ionization energy values, after removing, say for example, 1 electron, we got a jump. Means what? The valence electrons for that element is 1. After removing 2 electrons, we got a jump. Valence electrons for that element is what? 2. After removing 3 electrons, we get a jump. The valence electrons is what? 3. After removing 4 electrons, we get a jump. Valence electrons is what? 4. Like that. We will see a question on this. So this is a very important one. I mean, this model of questions have come in the previous years also. For an element, the successive ionization energy values in electron volt per atom, they are given here. Look at it. 12.32, 26.84, 44.56, 65.73, 203.9. Are we seeing a sudden jump? So look at it. What is it? 12.32. Next 26.84. Then what is it? 44.56. Then 65.73. Then suddenly somewhere 203.9. You see a sudden jump. Means here we removed 1 electron, 1 electron, 1 electron, and then 1. After removing 4 electrons, we are seeing a sudden jump. Means removal of the 5th electron is becoming difficult. Means what? The number of valence electrons. The number of valence electrons for this element must be equal to what? 4. So they are asking the element that satisfies the above values is. So here we cannot say clearly that okay, it is silicon or calcium or aluminum. But if we look at what are the valence electrons of these elements. What about silicon? Number of valence electrons are what? 4. Calcium, what is the number of valence electrons? 2. Aluminum, number of valence electrons is 3. Sulfur, number of valence electrons is, sulfur is an oxygen group, right? Number of valence electrons is what? 6. Which means, what is the one that will satisfy requirement? It is silicon. Because from the data, what we are able to see, that after the removal of 4 electrons, we have a sudden jump. Means, this element must be having 4 electrons in the valence orbit. Okay. Now we will see the trend. So again, when we talk about the trend of the properties, we will split the trends. First we will talk about the representative elements. So what we need to keep in mind is representative elements. While we will generally say S and P block, we have to keep in mind that the 18th group is excluded. What is the 18th group? It is the noble gas group or the inert gases. Representative element means what? S and P block excluding 18th. Okay. So in a period, already we talked about this. It is just like a reiteration of that fact. In a period, no shells are added. No more shells are added. And what we have discussed is the Z effective value will be increasing. In a period when we go from left to right, Z effective value will be what? Increasing. We discussed about it already. Okay. Which means what? In a period, since the Z effective is increasing, it means what? The outer electrons will come under stronger nuclear. As we move from left to right, they will come under stronger nuclear force. Means it becomes difficult to remove. So ionization energy will be increasing. Left to right, ionization energy will be what? Increasing. But look at this. Left to right means what? Lithium should be beryllium less than beryllium, should be less than boron. I'm talking about the second period. Should be less than carbon, should be less than nitrogen, should be less than oxygen, should be less than fluorine, should be less than neon. This is what is left to right. Ionization energy increasing means that is what is expected. But you see irregularity. What is the irregularity? Boron less than beryllium. You see. And oxygen less than nitrogen. So which means what? The removal of electrons from beryllium is taking more amount of energy. A removal of electron from nitrogen is taking more amount of energy than the oxygen. So you see, these two are what? The anomalies. These two are what? The anomalies. Now same thing is going to repeat. Same thing will be repeating. So what we will be able to see in case of the third period? What is the observation? Aluminum less than magnesium. Similarly, the sulfur is less than phosphorus. In case of the fourth period, so fourth period, what do we have? Gallium will be less than calcium, and selenium will be less than arsenic. So we'll see what is the reason for that. Okay, so what is the anomaly we are seeing between the second and we can say 2A and 3A, because the 13th group, right, is also called as what? 3A. Otherwise we can say second group and 13th group. Okay, because second group means what? The beryllium, magnesium, calcium, that one. And 13th group means what? Boron, aluminum. Boron family is also called as what? 13th group. In the old numbering system we use this A. So second group means what? 2A. And boron family means what? 3A. So beryllium, magnesium, calcium, they have what structure? NS2 orbital structure, which is what? Fully filled S subshell. Whereas boron, aluminum, gallium, they will have a lone electron. So they will have this structure NS2 NP1 structure. They will have a lone electron in the P. After removal of this lone electron, they will obtain that fully filled NS2 structure. So there are two reasons that we have talked about for this. What is one? The removal of lone electron from the NP level will be easier than removing electrons from the fully filled NS subshell. That is one. Second thing is what? When you look at say for example beryllium and then boron, beryllium we are removing electron from 2s level, boron we are removing electron from 2p. The valence orbit is same. For both of them valence orbit is same. So S subshell or S orbitals will be more penetrating towards the nucleus. So towards the nucleus, S orbital electrons will be more penetrating. Means it is difficult to remove the electron from S orbits than S orbitals than the P orbitals. So we'll explain this by using either that penetration or by the stability. In case of beryllium, magnesium, calcium, that NS2 structure is fully filled NS level, that is stable. In case of boron, aluminum, we are removing a lone electron from P, and after removal we will arrive at a stable arrangement. What about the other anomaly? Nitrogen is more than oxygen, phosphorus is more than sulfur. I mean, all our 15th group, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth, what are those? 15th group. Oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium, they are all what? 16th group. 15th group values are more than 16th group. Again, this is a very important aspect that we will see in +2 when we go to P block also, right? We will discuss about it. The nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, what they have? Half-filled electronic configuration of that NP3 structure, half-filled P structure. Half-filled P will be difficult to disturb. That is the reason why the ionization energies will be what? Higher for the nitrogen. Nitrogen will be higher than oxygen. Phosphorus will be more than sulfur. Arsenic is more than selenium. In case of oxygen, sulfur, selenium, right? They will have what? They will have NP4 structure, isn't it? They will have what? NS2, NP4. After the removal of an electron, they will come to what? NS2, NP3, half-filled P structure. So that is the reason why the ionization energy values for the 15th group element will be, in any period you take, 15th group element of the particular period will be more than 16th group. 13th group element will be less than second group. Means what? Boron family will be less than the second group. Okay. So these are the reasons for the anomaly. Now another interesting thing that we will discuss again when we go to the S block chapter. See, what we need to keep in mind is the periodic classification of elements as such, right, is like amalgamation of all the groups. Like in the inorganic chemistry, when we have S block, we have P block, we have D and F block. So if you try to look at all of them, I mean, into one bucket and try and study the properties, right, that is what we will have in the periodic classification of elements, except the chemical properties, because chemical properties we will see only when we go to the respective groups. But here the other properties, which is about the radius, or the density, or the ionization potential, or even other properties that we are going to see in the subsequent videos, like electron affinity, electronegativity, nature of oxides, all these things, right? It is like some summary of whatever we are going to see in the respective groups, we will be seeing in the periodic classification of elements. So again, some of these points, right, we'll touch upon when we go to the respective groups. So that is something that we need to always keep in mind. Okay. So here IE2 of group 1A. See, why this naming group 1A and group 2A? It is as per the old numbering system. Okay. IE2 means what? Second ionization energy. IE2 means what? Second ionization energy of first group is more than IE2 of second group. Why? Think about it. If you have say sodium, what is sodium arrangement? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. If we removed one electron, means what? We will come to Na plus. What is the Na plus arrangement? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. Now think about it. When you want to remove one more electron from here, you are disturbing the octet structure. You're disturbing what? Octet structure. So it is going to be requiring a significantly high amount of energy. Whereas in case of magnesium, let us talk same period. So what is magnesium? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2. After removing one electron, we will form Mg plus. Mg plus is what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. Still there is one electron. If you remove this, means we will come to the most stable Mg2 plus. Mg2 plus will be what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. So in case of the first group or 1A group, after removing one electron, we are coming to the most stable octet arrangement. So the removal of next electron is going to be very difficult. Whereas in case of the second group or 2A group, after removal of the second electron, we are coming to most stable arrangement, which is the octet structure. That is the reason why IE2, second ionization energy of the first group elements, is more than the second ionization energy of the second group elements. Now across a group, when we go from top to bottom, so what we have said, when you go down a group, what we are essentially seeing is more shells are added. That is what we are able to observe, right? More shells are added, or that orbit number is increasing, means what? The electron in that outermost orbit is moving farther and farther from the nucleus, so it becomes easy for the removal of the electron. That is what we said. But there are anomaly. So in a group, generally IE will be what? Decreasing down the group. But look at the anomalies, particularly when we talk about the 13th group or the boron family. Aluminium is almost comparable to gallium. So this aluminum gallium anomaly, right, we talked about it even in the case of the atomic radius. Aluminum atomic radius will be almost close to gallium. Why? Because when we go from aluminum to gallium, before gallium, right, we fill 10 electrons into the 3D level, which is from scandium to zinc. So when we fill electrons into 3D, they will be not able to shield the outermost electrons that much. As a result, what happens? Because of the poor shielding effect of the 10D electrons, and remember, gallium is just coming after filling of the 10D electrons. That is why in case of the 13th group, this anomaly will be prominent. Since the nucleus is attracting the outermost electrons more strongly because of the poor shielding effect of 3D electrons, as a result, what we see is, even in the radius case also we talked about it, the fourth orbit will come almost as close to as the third orbit of aluminum, like that. For similar reason, right, since the outermost electrons are coming under more influence of nucleus, what are we observing? The ionization energy value also will be what? Almost close to the aluminum. So we can see practically also what are the values. Aluminum 5.98 electron volt means gallium 5.99. Okay. And in case of indium and thallium, again indium and thallium also we talked about this anomaly in the radius. So when we are moving from indium to thallium, we will be not only filling the boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, thallium. So boron comes in which period? It comes in second period. Aluminum comes in third period. Gallium comes in fourth period. Indium comes in fifth period. Thallium comes in sixth period. Before we move from indium to thallium, right here, we are going to fill the 14 electrons into the F subshell. Lanthanides, all of them will come here. And then, not only that, we will also fill the 5D, means 10 electrons into 5D and 14 electrons into 4F. So totally we are filling what? 24 electrons, which are filled into what? The poor shielding D and F subshells. And the poor shielding effect of the F orbital electrons is what we will associate with lanthanide contraction, correct? So because of the poor shielding effect of the 14 electrons that are entered into the n-2 level, the outermost electron, right, will experience even stronger influence of nucleus. Okay, that is what we'll associate with the lanthanide contraction. Okay, now the lanthanide contraction, we talked about it. We talked about it in the radius discussion. We have talked about what is lanthanide contraction and what is the effect of this. We have seen that in case of the indium to thallium, the radius is almost similar for them. Why? Because of the poor shielding effect of the D and F electrons. Same, that is what we'll the poor shielding effect of F electrons, right? 14 electrons that we are entering into the 4F, we'll associate this with what? Lanthanide contraction. Because of this, the indium ionization energy will be less than thallium. So see, small difference only, but what is it? 5.78 and 6.01. So normally what we'll expect as you go down the group: boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, thallium. Okay, go down the group means it must decrease, but thallium is here more than indium itself. So if you see what is the actual order, right? This is the actual order. What is the actual order? Boron is more than thallium, more than gallium, more than aluminum than indium. So we see two anomalies coming here. What are the two anomalies? One is in the case of aluminum gallium, other is in the case of thallium, because of the poor shielding effect of 14 electrons entering into the 4F subshell and 10 electrons entering into the 5d subshell, the nucleus influence on the outermost electron is so high that the ionization energy will be what? 6.01. It is just next to boron. It is more than indium. It is more than aluminum. It is also more than gallium. It is just next to what? Boron. So this is about the anomaly in the ionization energy of the 13th group elements or the 3a group elements. Okay. Now the 14th group or 4a. Here also we have an anomaly that will come in the case of tin and lead. So again, where does tin comes? Tin comes next to indium. So after indium, what is it? Tin. After thallium, what is it? Lead, Pb. So we'll just write it down separately. So where does the tin and lead come? So we are in the 14th group, right? So 14th group is what? The carbon family. What are the 14th group elements? We have carbon, silicon, germanium, and then tin and lead. So these will come corresponding. So what are the corresponding elements? Boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, thallium, like this. Okay. Now this is the second period, this is the third period, this is the fourth period, this is the fifth period, this is the sixth period. Same way, like when we are moving from indium to thallium, right? We have filled 14 electrons into 4f and 10 electrons into 5d. Same happens when we are moving from tin to lead also. Okay, because we will move through the lanthanides because of lanthanide contraction, right? What we see is that the lead ionization energy in fact will be more than tin, because as you go down the group, what we expect is ionization energy must decrease generally, but lead will be more than tin. What is the reason? Because of lanthanide contraction. Since we are entering 14 electrons into 4f and also 10 electrons into 5d, both are poor shielding. The outermost electrons will come under more influence of nucleus. Means what? It will be very difficult for the removal of these outermost electrons in comparison to tin. That is why we can see the difference, right? Tin is what? 7.344 and lead is what? 7.416. So what about the overall order in the 14th? Carbon more than silicon, more than germanium. So here that significance is decreasing. You can see in case of the 13th, right? Like that's why I said the 13th group, the effect will be so prominent as we are just moving from the transition series. But in case of this, right, the lead Pb is just more than 10, that's it. In case of 13th, what we see, thallium is so high, it is becoming so high that it is just next to what? Boron. But in this case, it is not like that. Okay, still carbon more than silicon, more than germanium, just the tin and lead, the order will be interchanged. That is it. Okay, so this is about the anomaly of the ionization energy when we talk about a group. Now in the transition elements, so generally when we look at the transition elements, right, in case of the radius also we talked about it. So there are two counter effects. What are the two counter effects? The nuclear charge. So when we move from left to right, any scandium to zinc we are moving, what is happening? Nuclear charge is increasing because we are adding one proton to the nucleus step by step. Also, since we are adding electrons to n-1d, in this case we are adding electrons to 3d level. So outermost orbit is what? 4s, right? I mean 4s is the subshell. Outermost orbit is 4th. We are adding electrons to 3d. What these electrons will do? They will cause the shielding effect. So there will be the shielding effect of the n-1d electrons. Particularly when we talk about the 3d series, means we'll talk about the shielding effect of the 3d electrons, like that. Okay. Now these are two countering effects: nuclear charge and the shielding effect. Now if the nuclear charge is dominating, what happens? We have seen radius will be decreasing. As a result, the electrons of the ns level will come close, which means what? It becomes difficult for the removal of them, right? So what we expect is the ionization energy or ionization enthalpy should be what? Increasing. When the nuclear charge, increase in nuclear charge is dominating. When the shielding effect is dominating, what happens? Shielding effect is dominating means what? The outermost ns electrons will not come under that much influence of nucleus, which means what? Radius will be increasing. In other words, ionization enthalpy must be decreasing. So if you see the practical values, right, what you can see in the first transition, so we'll call the 3D series as what? First transition. Remember what we discussed in the case of the radius? First part, what we are able to observe in radius, the nuclear charge will be dominating than the shielding effect. For the first part of the series, the increase in nuclear charge will be dominating the shielding effect. Here also same thing, from scandium to iron. So scandium is what? 631, iron is what? 762. The ionization potential value will be increasing. You see 631 to 762. But here we may have some variations. So the abnormalities in the transition and then inner transition elements, right, they are very common because of the energy considerations, the 4s level and 3D level, right? Particularly we are talking about the 3D series. That is why we are discussing about the 4s and 3D. 4s and 3D, they will have almost comparable energies, and the removal of electron would sometimes result in rearrangement of the energy levels. That is the reason why we have some abnormalities coming. But generally what we see is scandium to iron, we see there is an increase. Iron to nickel after, so which means what? Here in the first part, right, scandium to iron, what must be happening? The effect of increase in nuclear charge must be more. That must be dominating. Okay. Whereas when we look at iron to nickel, where is iron? 762, then 758, okay, 736 and 7, almost comparable. They are almost comparable, which means what? The increase in the nuclear charge, step by step we are increasing it. Increase in nuclear charge is offsetting the shielding effect. Means shielding effect and then increase in nuclear charge, they are able to balance it out. But suddenly for the zinc is what? It is increasing. In fact, what we can see is from copper and zinc itself, it is increasing. So from 736, nickel is 736, right? For copper, what is it? 745. For zinc, what is it? 906. Okay. For zinc, it is suddenly increasing. From 745, it is becoming 906. Why? Zinc is having what structure? Zinc is having 4s2, 3d10, 4s2. So we are going to remove the electron from where? 4s. We are going to remove the electron from where? 4s. 4s is what? Completely filled. It is what? Completely filled, 4s subshell, right? So to remove the electron, it is going to be requiring large amount of energy. That is why the zinc ionization potential value will be what? Higher, because we are removing electron from where? From the ns2 arrangement. So what is the overall conclusion for the first part of series? We see that the effect of increase in nuclear charge is dominating. That's why the ionization potential is what? Increasing. But then it is almost same from iron to copper in that range, which means what is the reason? The reason is broadly that the increase in nuclear charge and the increase of shielding effect, right? They both are compensating each other. Zinc, suddenly we see a jump. Why? Because of the ns2 structure. Removal of electron from that 4s2 structure is going to be difficult because it is completely filled s subshell arrangement. Okay. Now if you look at the transition when you go down the group, like we talk about, so here what are these groups? So if you have from the 3rd to the 12th in the new numbering system, so these are all what? These are all the groups in the transition series. In a group, when we move from first to second, first means what? The 3D series. Second means what? 4D series. The value of ionization potential decreases. This is just like what we normally see in the representative elements. Representative elements, what we said, when you go from one period element to the next period element of the same group, we are adding a shell essentially. Means what? The outermost electrons are moving farther from the nucleus. Means it will be easy for the removal. Okay. But when we are moving from the second to the third, remember this is where we are going to get the lanthanoid contraction effect. So what is that effect here? The lanthanoid contraction effect is going to come. So what is it? When you move from the second to the third series, the value of ionization potential, it increases. Okay, not by significant value but a marginal value. So what is the reason for that? If you look at the elements, right, so we have yttrium, zirconium, and then this is the 4D series. We also call it as what? The second transition. Okay. 5D series is also called as what? The third transition. Fourth transition is incomplete. Okay. Now what we see is when we look at zirconium to hafnium, after lanthanum, right? So we will get 14 F block elements will come. This is where we are filling electrons into 4F level. 4F level, they will have a poor shielding effect. 4F level, what they have? They have poor shielding effect. This is what we will call as the lanthanide contraction region, isn't it? So the 14 electrons that we are entering into 4F, they will not be able to shield that much properly. So the outermost electrons will come under more influence of nucleus. So zirconium and hafnium, when you compare, right, the ionization energies, instead of decreasing, they will be slightly increasing. But again, look at it, there is exception. Yttrium and lanthanum, right, that increase will not be seen. Okay, in fact, the case will be that lanthanum will still be less than yttrium in terms of ionization potential. This is like the normal trend. Why? Because the 14 electrons that are entering into the F subshell, right, they are entering after lanthanum. Okay, this is the reason why in case of the radius also, remember radius trend, what is it that we discussed? The radius of that 3D series will be almost comparable to radius of 4D. This is what we discussed, right? Not 3D, but rather radius of the 4D series is almost comparable to what? Radius of 5D, except the case of yttrium and lanthanum, because the reason why the radius values of 4D series and 5D series are similar is because of what? It is because of the lanthanide contraction. Lanthanide contraction starts after lanthanum. So exception is what? Yttrium and lanthanum, right? What is the thing that we see? Still lanthanum, the element that will come below yttrium, lanthanum ionization potential will be less than yttrium. Okay, the lanthanide contraction effect will be starting from hafnium onwards. We look at this question. First ionization potential of copper is less than that of zinc, but its second IP is more than that of zinc. So the first ionization potential of copper, right, is less than that of the zinc. We have seen that. Okay, but if you look at the second ionization potential, right, it is more than that of the zinc. We need to explain why. See, whenever we have these kind of discussions, right, it is always about the stability of the electronic arrangement. See, first ionization potential of copper is less than zinc because of what? If you look at the copper arrangement, right, what is the copper arrangement? It is I'm just looking at the outermost structure. It is what? 3D10 4s1, copper abnormal arrangement. What about the zinc? Zinc is 3D10 4s2. Okay, so if you are removing one electron, means here we will remove from where? 4s1. So we remove, in case of copper, one electron of the 4s will be removed. If you remove that one electron, what we are going to get to? We will get to 3D10, which means all these subshells will be completely filled. Whereas in case of zinc, we have to remove the electron from 4s2. Already this is what? Fully filled 4s level, right? We remove it, means we will go to which structure? 3D10 4s1. We are moving from stable to unstable. Means what? The removal of that 4s will be moving it away from the stable arrangement. Completely filled, it is becoming what? 4s1. From completely filled, it is becoming what? 4s1. So that is unstable. In case of copper, the final arrangement is stable. In case of zinc, the initial arrangement is stable. We are talking about the removal of the first electron. So that is the reason why the IP1 of copper is less than the IP1 of zinc. Zinc IP1 is higher. Ionization potential, first ionization potential is what? Higher. Whereas when we talk about the second ionization potential, we are talking about what? Removal of electron from copper plus and removal of electron from zinc plus. What is copper plus arrangement? Already we have seen. Copper plus is what? It is having 3D10. You want to remove electron, means you will go to 3D9. 3D10 is stable, right? So if you want to remove electron from copper plus, means we are going from 3D10 to 3D9 arrangement. We are going from stable arrangement to unstable. Whereas when we remove electron from zinc plus is what? 3d10 4s1. If you remove electron means we will go to 3d10, that is stable. So removing electron from copper plus means we are moving from stable to unstable, means what? This requires more energy. Here we are going to require more energy. Okay, and removing electrons in zinc plus means we are going from unstable to stable. Here we are going to require considerably less amount of energy. Still we require energy, every place we require energy, but comparatively less amount of energy, which means what? In case of copper, the IP1 value, right, will be less than IP1 of zinc, but IP2 case, IP2 of copper is more than IP2 of zinc. Okay, so that is the reason for it. Now what are the applications of the ionization energy? So one application of ionization energy is that the ionization energy, right, will be used in calculating the electronegativity. So this we will talk about it when we go to the electronegativity definition, electronegativity periodic trend. But the ionization energy value, right, as such will be used in calculating the electronegativity values of the elements as per some scales, because electronegativity is measured by using different scales. We'll talk about it when we go there. Okay, but one of the application is what? It is used in measuring the electronegativity of the elements. Now look at the other applications. What does low ionization energy of an element indicate? Low ionization energy means what? Ionization energy is energy required to remove the electron from the, or most loosely bound electron from the outermost orbit of an isolated gaseous atom. Correct, that is the actual definition we have seen. Now when it is easy to remove means what? That particular element will have what we call as electropositive character or metallic character. So when the ionization energy of an element is less, it indicates what? The electropositive character of the element is more, or that element is what? More metallic. So metals will generally have what? So this is how we look at metals. Will generally have what? They will have low ionization energies. Metals are going to be having low ionization energies. Okay, now the low ionization energy of an element, right, it also means that the reactivity of the element is more. When we talk about the reactivity as a metal, so look at it, what is reactivity as a metal means? Reactivity as a metal means what? The reactivity that will come by the loss of electrons. So when the ionization energy is less means what? It means the metallic nature, or we can say reactivity by losing electrons, reactivity by the loss of electrons is what? This is strong. And low ionization energy means what? It is able to easily lose electron. So we'll talk about the loss of electron. Let's say for example we have a metal, it is losing electron to form, so I'm just taking the example of loss of one electron, it is forming a monovalent cation. So loss of electrons is what we call as oxidation. Any substance, right, losing electrons, what do we call it as? We'll call it as oxidation. Okay, now if a substance is undergoing oxidation, again this idea, right, oxidation idea, we'll touch upon it in chemical bonding chapter. Also we'll discuss in detail about this when we go to the redox reaction chapter. Okay, so look at this. If we have the formation of cation, what we say is that particular metal is losing electrons, and thereby we will say it is getting oxidized. Now when it is getting oxidized means, if it is losing electrons means the electron is given to some other element, means that other element is gaining electron. Let's say for example we have an element A, it is gaining electron to form an anion. So in this case gain of electrons is what we call as reduction. Gain of electrons is what we call as reduction. Okay, now the metal which is losing electron is able to reduce the others. So we will say metals have reducing power. What do we say? Metals will have reducing power. So here what we need to understand is low ionization energy means what? That metal will be able to easily lose electron, means what? It is able to reduce the other substances easily. So we will say the reducing power is high. But We'll talk about this reducing power in little bit more detail, because it is not just going to be depending upon the ionization energy. There will be other things also. Okay, in fact, in the end of the chapter, right, we'll discuss about the reducing power. So metals, we'll say what? Metals, they have reducing power. Okay, metals will be having what? Reducing power. So we'll say metals are reducing agents or reductant. We'll say metals are what? Reducing agents or reductant. Okay, we'll discuss about it further in the end of this chapter, where we'll talk about the periodic trends of the additional properties. Okay, but here generally, right, low ionization energy, because low ionization energy means what? Less amount of energy is required for the removal of electron, means that particular metal is able to easily lose electrons, means that electrons can be easily taken by others. No, means that metal is good reducing agent, means it is having high reducing power, like that. Okay, but this reducing power or reducing nature is not just depend upon the ionization energy. There are other things also involved. There will be other factors also that will be involved. We'll talk about it later. Okay, but this is what is about the applications of the ionization energy. One of the important ones is what? The electronegativity estimation. So this is about the ionization energy or ionization potential or ionization enthalpy trend. And like we always keep saying, we need to focus on what are the exceptions to the regular trends, and what are the reasons for the exceptional behavior or the anomalies. Okay, we will see in the next trend video.